Hello and welcome to TRG Classify. Today we're going to go through a demo to show you how to use TRG Classify to bring your classification projects in-house and allow you to do so in a matter of minutes. Before we get started, let's talk about what an HTS code is and where TRG Classify effectively closes the loop for the classification of your goods. As many of you know, HS commodity codes are harmonized codes at the international level. Almost all countries use HS codes to determine tariff classifications and corresponding duty rates, with the 6-digit code allowing you to classify something at the international level, and the 10-digit code, which is necessary to bring goods for import into the United States and calculate the correct duties owed. It's important, and it's the final step to classify your goods for importation into the U.S., and TRG Classify is designed to get you that code in a matter of seconds. It's important to remember that using the wrong HTS code could mean that you're paying too much or too little in duties and taxes. So it's very important to ensure you're using the right codes. Since nobody knows your product better than you and your import team, and you as the importer of record are liable for any fines and penalties for using the wrong codes, the most time-efficient and beneficial approach is for you to classify the goods yourself. In the past, this has been cumbersome, involved volumes of material to go through, and been complicated, until now. TRG Classify has developed a start-to-finish classification tool that will allow you, the importer of record, to classify your goods and attain that 10-digit tariff code in a few quick and easy steps. To do this, TRG Classify consolidates the general product description and applies the general rules of interpretation of the U.S. tariff code schedule to provide an intuitive process and allow you to get the exact tariff code that is needed to apply the correct duties. As I mentioned earlier, there's no setup required for using TRG Classify. It's entirely web-based, and all you need is an internet connection to get started. So let's get going. To classify our first good, or any good, we need to find and apply the country of origin. Our system defaults to China, which is the most imported country of origin for goods entering the United States. However, just a quick click of the drop-down menu allows you to pick any country that you're going to be bringing goods in for. Once we do that, we're going to move over to begin applying descriptors and to obtain our final tariff code. Let's start with something easy. If I want to bring in golf balls from China, I'm going to start with a very general description and type in the letter ball. Once I do that, the system begins its process. The first thing we see is what the assumed characteristics are. Generally speaking, we don't show those, but you can take a look because you want to be clear that all those assumed characteristics are in fact correct. When I click on ball, it's such a general description that there are no assumed characteristics beyond that description, so we click hide and keep on going. The next question is to tell us more about the ball. Is it a festive article, a miscellaneous manufactured good, sports equipment? That's a good descriptor so far. Or is the ball part of something bigger or manufactured? In this case, we know it's not, and our best descriptor is sports equipment, so we're going to click on that. Once we do that, the next question is to tell us more about the end use. In this case, as we look through our next following description opportunities, we can see that golf is right there. Since we're bringing in golf balls, we of course click on golf. We've now provided enough descriptions to get us to the correct chapter, and it's at this point that you'll be charged for gaining that classification by clicking the Get Tariff Code. When I do that, we're now provided with the 10-digit code 9506.320000 for golf balls from China. We're also provided with the unit of measure, which in this case is dozens. That's pretty familiar. And we also can see that the duty rate is duty-free. So that's good news. We now have enough information to send our product to sales and marketing, set up our pricing, and move those goods out into commerce. Now let's try something a bit more difficult. Something in the furniture category. We're going to be bringing in a teak chair that's all wood for household use. My first descriptor is chair. When I click on this, once again, I'm going to take a quick look at my assumed characteristics just to see what it says. In this case, I've got a few more things that I need to possibly go through to assure that my descriptions and my characteristics are correct to continue. In this case, my condition is not an antique. It's not magnetic. It's not designed for fairground use, etc., etc. So I agree that my assumed characteristics are correct and move to click on Hide. Now I take a quick look at my known characteristics. Is the end use other than medical, not rotating, not with an aircraft or motor vehicle, or swiveling or convertible into a bed? If they did, in fact, include those characteristics, I would click Modify and add them to my descriptor. In this case, my known characteristics are correct, so I move to the next question, which is to tell me more about the frame. In this case, we're looking at being cane, osier, bamboo, etc., metal, wood, or other. Well, it's an all-wood chair, so I pick wood. Now it asks me about the finishing. And again, sometimes the tree is going to take us in a number of different directions, but it's all based on the general rules of interpretation of the U.S. Tariff Code. In this case, I don't have an upholstered chair. I've got one that is all wood, so I click Other. And at this point, I've provided enough description to get me to Chapter 94, and I'm ready to move forward and get my final tariff code. Once again, it's at this point that we'll be charged. I click on that. Now I've got a couple of additional opportunities to choose, but I can see that my teak chair is showing right there, but I only see 8 digits. So I've got to move my cursor a little more forward to get the final description to take us to 10 digits. In this case, I do in fact have a household chair, so I see my duty rate or my duty code is 9401 69 4010. When I bring it in for entry, it's going to be measured in numbers of units, and once again, it's duty-free. A little bit more complicated, but not too bad. Now let's try something in the textiles arena. I'd like to bring in a girl's sweater that's a wool blend. So I type in sweater. Once again, we're going to take a quick look at our assumed characteristics, and you start to see kind of a recurring theme: antique, magnetic, etc., etc. So these assumed characteristics are obviously assumed most often when classifying a good. Once again, I agree, so I click Hide. Now it wants us to tell us more about the construction. In this case, I have a knitted sweater that is a wool blend. When I click on that, now it asks me about the gender. Is it a baby's or is it other? Well, it's a girl's sweater, but I want to be sure that the definition for babies doesn't cover the sweater I'm bringing in. So you see a little blue cube right next to the babies, and when I put my cursor over it, it gives me the legal description for what a baby's garment is. In this case, it's for young children of a body height not exceeding 86 centimeters. For those of you doing quick math, that's 34 inches. Kind of a tall kid, but at least now I'm prepared to make my correct choice. It's not a baby's. It is, in fact, a girl's sweater that's taller than that, so I'm going to click on Other. Once I do that, we now move to questions on content. I said this was a wool blend sweater. In fact, it's 75% wool and 25% acrylic. So I put 75 in for the wool component and 25 in for man-made fiber, which is acrylic. These numbers need to add up to 100. Once I check that, I click Accept. Now it wants to know further information about the content of the wool-only component. So now my number is going to need to add up to the percentage component of wool, which is 75. And in this case, it's going to be a nice soft garment of 50% wool and 25% cashmere. Once I click on those, I've now provided enough descriptions to get me to Chapter 61. I'm ready to get my tariff code. I click on Get Tariff Code, and I'm taken to women's or girls' sweaters. In this case, we've got 2 census values that we're going to need when we're bringing this garment in for entry into the United States. Numbers measured in dozens and weight measured in kilograms. I can also see I'll be paying 16% duty on these items. So once again, it's a little bit more complicated, but the follow-through and the logic is based on the general rules of interpretation. So if we start out very simply and add descriptors along the way, checking our known and assumed characteristics, we're going to be able to arrive at the correct 10-digit tariff code in a matter of minutes. So that's how hard it is to bring the classification of your goods inside and in-house for a very quick and efficient process. If you like what you see today, we'd very much like for you to sign up for TRG Classify, and we've made it quite easy. You simply go to the trgclassify.com website and click on Apply Now. Once done, you're taken to the all electronic sign-up page, and you just follow the directions. If you're not currently a TRG Direct customer, you'll click No, then choose TRG Classify as what you'd like to sign up for, and move forward to the next page. There's only 2 pieces of information we need to get you set up and moving it in 15 minutes. The first one is a power of attorney. Technically, the classification of goods and the assistance thereof is considered customs business, so we need to have a power of attorney on file at TRG Direct. The only other piece of information you need is how to pay for the service, and we provide a credit card application online and ready to be filled out. Once you complete those, you can scan the power of attorney, send it back to us. In a matter of minutes, we'll send you out your user ID and password, and you'll begin to be classifying your goods in a matter of moments. As always, if you have any questions on the process, you can call Jamie Dinan at TRG Direct, 406-922-6558, or email her at jdinan@trgdirect.com. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to you signing up soon for TRG Classify.